Retro-futurism has been all the rage for the last couple of decades. You can barely move for a concept that harks back to a glory day of the past for one manufacturer or another. Yet, no matter how played out we think it gets, something always comes along to prove we're absolute suckers for a car from the past reinvented for the future. We thought it was time to look back over some of the very best, some of which are massive missed opportunities, some of which are complete flights of fantasy, and some of which are expected to be on the streets pretty soon. And if you do enjoy this video, please do remember to give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more from Goodwood Road and Racing. The Renault 5 prototype concept really got stuck in our brains on its debut a few months ago. It reminded us again that retro can be done right. And maybe that our EV future doesn't mean abandoning all the things we love about cars. Thankfully, this retro concept is, by all accounts, the latest that's also due to make production. It's scheduled to hit showrooms in a couple of years as a small, affordable EV. And if it does make it through the usual production shenanigans looking like the concept, we'll be the very first in a big queue to buy one. Okay, so the modern Miura is perhaps not the best example of a good retro concept. Sure, we're glad they made it, and good lord does it look good in the metal. But in reality, we're also kind of pleased they didn't make it. Just look at how the new version of the Countach has been received to realise that sometimes it's nice to look back. But modern realities mean you can't push the past into the present. This, though, is the opposite. I mean, just look at it. Of course they should have made it. The Ford Shelby Cobra was a collaboration between Ford and Shelby. When the covers came off at the Detroit Motor Show in 2004, there was an instant clamour of excitement. Underneath that retro-inspired bodywork was a bespoke designed V10 engine, and not a model. This one was fully functional. More components were scavenged from the upcoming Ford GT supercar, and the styling was just brilliant. Who will ever know why it never happened? Probably for the same reasons the Shelby GR1 also disappeared off the face of the planet. This was an attempt to bring the even rarer Daytona Coupe into the 21st century. Just 7 Daytona Coupes were ever built, and we had all of them at the revival in 2015. And just like the Cobra, Ford and Shelby decided to team up to bring it back. It used the same V10 and the same Ford GT underpinnings as the Cobra we just saw, and was also developed as far as a fully working concept. But it too would never see production. Why? Well, the very car that underpinned them both. That's why. Ford's own retro-futuristic concept was the GT, and it had every intention of making more than a few of those, so it couldn't sanction 3 retro-inspired cars at once. Thankfully, Superformance, makers of some pretty fine GT40 continuation cars, have acquired the rights to build some proper ones from Ford, in limited capacity. So hope still lives on that we'll see the GR1 on the road. We've spoken before about the Duetto Tanter in our video on Alfa Romeo's greatest concept cars, and the name is still as confusing as ever. To explain, it's pronounced Duetto Tanter, not Tuetto Tanter. Firstly, because it's Italian, and secondly, Alfa says, because it's not a 2 at the start of the name. That's a D in a Renaissance script. Whatever you say, Alfa Romeo. However you pronounce it, it's a glorious thing, and another case of what might have been, and indeed what very nearly was. Initially conceived merely as a celebration of 80 years of Pininfarina in 2010, the adulation around it forced production to be considered. Plans were hatched to twin it with the new MX-5 to revive the Alfa Spider, but then Sergio Marchionne, the head of FCA, canned the idea, claiming that Alfa Romeo should be pure Italian built and therefore could not share a Japanese platform. As a result, the car that came out was the Fiat 124, and while nice, it has absolutely none of the Duetto Tanta's style. Speaking of weird names, the Holden Efijy does sound more like a description of a person placing the guy on the bonfire on November the 5th, but what it actually was a tribute to the 1953 Holden FJ, based on a Chevrolet Corvette and blessed with a supercharged V8. It's delightfully retro-futuristic, looking like something out of a Batman cartoon, but the truth here is that sometimes even we know a retro-futuristic concept has no chance of selling, and so the Effigy must remain a concept. Another concept that really needed to become real, and a car that is so achingly awesome to look at it makes you sort of want a Peugeot 504. This was the 504 Coupe reborn as an EV, with a ridiculously cool body and a blue velour interior. The silhouette is pure retro pantomime with a liberal smattering of modern detailing and classic styling. We understand a production version would have required quite a bit of reworking before being feasible, but it's still a crying shame this remained merely a one-off 50th birthday present to the original. Will they? Won't they? The story of whether BMW would make a successor to the M1 was a more drawn-out tale of hope and dash dreams than that of Ross and Rachel. It peaked when the E90 V8-powered M3 broke cover, with an engine seemingly perfect for a supercar application. Then, BMW went and stoked everyone's fire with the M1 Hommage concept, a 30th birthday present to the legendary late 70s supercar. Surely, this was it. The M1 was returning as a slice of retro-futuristic, high-revving V8 exotica. No. They didn't even hint as to what powered the concept, and had absolutely no intention of ever putting it into production. Launched at the same time as the Urban EV, which would go on to become the cute but not quite as good-looking Honda E, the Sports EV was an absolute stunner. A teeny little, delightfully styled electric sports car. If it had been made, it would have finally shown that EVs can save the small sports car, but no. While the Urban EV had a future, the Sports EV, it seems, did not. Which is a shame, as this little tribute to the cute S600 would have been brilliant. Those then are our favourite retro-futuristic concepts. Which ones have we missed out? Let us know in the comments below.